So I think I can start welcoming everybody to this new edition of EUPRERA Talks. My name is Sabine Einwiller and I'm an Executive Director in the Board of Directors of EUPRERA. For those of you joining us for the first time, let me briefly introduce EUPRERA. EUPRERA stands for the European Public Relations, Education and Research Association, and it currently has more than 550 members in more than 50 countries. And who are our members? They are mainly academics, but also professionals, primarily coming from Europe, but also our membership expands beyond the European continent. EUPRERA's focus is on fostering a community passionate about research and education in public relations and strategic communication. We do that primarily through our thematic networks and projects, and also during our annual congress and related activities, such as webinars. A strong commitment of EUPRERA is to support public relations and communication research conducted by emerging scholars, which is, for example, done through the PhD seminar, which is held directly before the EUPRERA Congress. And this year, the Congress is in Bucharest from the 11th to the 14th of September. And the PhD seminar takes place from the 9th to the 11th of September. And today's webinar, well, as you know, it's all about this PhD seminar. And it is my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. As announced, unfortunately, Eugen Ihlen from the University of Oslo, he cannot join today, but we have two great speakers and facilitators of this webinar today. And first of all, let me introduce Professor Jens Seiffert-Brockman from the Vienna University of Economics and Business. And he's a facilitator of this PhD seminar, and he will give the insights on the eligibility criteria. He can offer advice on how to create a strong application. And then we have Ester Conings Vanvik from Kristiana University College. And she has previously participated in the PhD seminar, and therefore she can share her personal experiences and talk about all the challenges, rewards, and how participating in the PhD seminar influenced her own research. And at the end of the webinar, of course, you will have enough time for questions, and the answers will be given. So thank you very much for joining us today, and don't forget to check out some of the other episodes of this webinar series on the EUPRERA YouTube channel. And now I wish you a good and inspiring webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Sabine, very much for the introduction. Hi, Esther. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Jens.
I think I have to add that you haven't just participated in the seminar, you have participated twice. So you
Yes.
are not only qualified to participate in this and answer questions from the participant side, but you are really uniquely qualified, I would say. So, and before we get started, we don't want to make a big show today, boring you with YouTube slides. We want to make this as conversational as possible. There's three broad topics that we want to talk about. We were, as Sabine mentioned, three colleagues. Eugen couldn't make it today, but he'll be there for the PhD seminar. And he's, of course, a gracious and a very inspiring host, together with me, of course. And there's a third facilitator of the workshop, Nora Denner, who is also not here today, but who will also help with the seminar and giving feedback over the course of 3 days. So what we want to tell you about today, before we plunge into your questions, is we want to tell you a little bit about the objectives, about the format, and what you can anticipate over the course of the seminar when you're participating. We, of course, want to give you some advice on how to craft a strong application so that you make it in, because, as Sabine also mentioned, our number of spots in the seminar is limited to 10, and that's connected with the way we conduct the seminar. And of course, we're also going to talk a little bit about eligibility criteria. But I think most importantly, and I say that as somebody who has participated in the PhD workshop myself in 2010, Esther is going to share her personal experience in this forum and going to tell how this could impact you as potential future participants, be it this year or maybe next year when we have the next installment of the EUPRERA PhD workshop. Esther, do you think I forgot anything? Then
No.
I guess I'll just start. As I've said, we had 3 parts, and I'm filling in for Oyvind. But of course, we are doing this together since 9 years now. So it's going to be the 10th installment this year that we are doing this together. And the idea behind the PhD workshop is not to have this standard practice. Somebody is presenting and everybody is giving some feedback, and then we're moving on to the next. So what we're trying to achieve is really to have a deep dive into your topic, into your PhD topic. And that means that we ask you to prepare a 10-page proposal about the state of your research and how it connects to the fields of public relations, strategic communication, corporate communication, organizational communication, everything that falls into the purview of what EUPRERA is dealing with. And we are trying to do this in a very unique way and in a very unique format. Of course, there is like this formal academic aspect when we're going to sit down and discuss. And then there's the informal aspect, because apart from the procedure, which I'm going to tell you about in just a minute, we also value the community that we're trying to build over the course of these 3 days, which is why we don't hold these kind of workshops just in some random seminar rooms at the university, but we are really trying to seclude ourselves and to create a group of people who are not just presenting their work to a group of strangers, but really to a group of people who are in the very same situation and who can give insight and share their own experiences with each other over the course of these 3 days. So it's not just about the work that you are doing, presenting that and getting feedback. It's really about being part of a process of creating insight, gaining understanding, and realizing that there are many people who are in the same situation than you are as a PhD student, and sharing this insight and this knowledge and wisdom basically is very helpful to the process. So what is the format? As I've said, we ask you to hand in a 10-pager, and we expect all the participants to read every 10-pager, of course. But we also ask our participants to give substantial feedback to 2 other participants, meaning to prepare feedback, which is then first shared in the discussion and which is then secondarily shared in a written document to the person who is presenting her research. We are not relying on giving like 15 minutes presentations with PowerPoint. A normal session really starts like you are giving a short reminder what your work is about, because everybody should have read the 10 pages, so everybody knows what your work is about. And after those very brief minutes of reminding everybody what your work is about, you are going to retreat into what is called the box format. So the remaining participants are going to pretend as if you were not there while you are sitting with the back. Yeah, and Esther smiling, probably remembering the 2 times she was in that situation. And so the other participants start to discuss your proposal and your work as though you were not there. And the idea behind this format is to remove you from the need to look the other people in their faces, see their reactions, and react to what they are saying, so that they are free to discuss and you are completely free to concentrate and focus and take in the feedback, write it down, and just listen to what is coming your way. And in that format, we have roughly an hour of discussion with every participant, and during that hour, we have, like as I've said, 3 minutes of a quick reminder. Then it's usually about half an hour that we are discussing, all the participants are discussing in the box format, and then we are getting the presenters, in that case, you, back into the audience, and then we have a discussion back and forth. You can ask questions for clarifications, some things you didn't understand, and just try to get a reflection going on what this feedback was and what it means for your work. And of course, it doesn't really end there, because very often, and for me, when I did that back in 2010 in Uvascular, it was for me the case that it took me quite a while to realize what kind of feedback I got. And I was grateful that we weren't just having a 1-hour session, but were there for a couple of days, so that over the course of this workshop, I could ask the other participants and we could get into conversations and go deeper into things that were interesting for me. So it's really the entire experience of the workshop that matters, and the box format itself is just one part to kind of kickstart the conversations that you then have with your peers. But of course also with Nora, and Nora just told me that she is watching in the YouTube stream. So hi Nora, good to have you here, and Oyvind and me. And of course, that's why we are so grateful that Ester is here. We also try to have students for more than one time, so that people can also, who are first-timers, benefit from the extra experience of those who were there more than just once. So I just want to say a few things about eligibility criteria and some advice on your applications before I hand over to Esther. And eligible is basically everybody who is writing a PhD within the field of the communication fields that I've mentioned, meaning public relations, organizational communication, strategic communication, with all sorts of topics, be it crisis communication, intercultural communication, whatever is interesting and falls within the purview of EUPRERA, which is, as you know, a pretty vast field of research and scholarship. We try to focus on those participants who are not too far ahead in their works, meaning that we like to see applications of PhDs who are in the first third, roughly, of their work. So it doesn't really make sense to participate when you're right at the beginning and you just have a topic and nothing else. So it's good to have already some insight in your topic and having written and read something about what you want to work on, so that you'll be able to craft and write this 10-pager. But it also doesn't make very much sense to participate in the workshop when you are very short before the finish line. So because when you just have a couple of months to go, like Esther, you're pretty short before finishing the PhD, then it doesn't make much sense anymore to participate, because then you really want to focus to get it done. So we really want to have you participating ideally after, let's say, the first 10% of your PhD work, and then up until, let's say, until the 2/3 of the work, when we can still have a meaningful impact and we can advise you and help you finding clarity with the problems that you might have, and maybe giving answers to questions that are, I don't want to say haunting you, but who are like kind of really blocks in the road for you. And of course, it's always important to keep in mind that this is like an addition to the supervision that you have at your home university or with your supervisor, to get an extra, a plus view that you don't have normally. Yeah, and what can you do to create a strong application? Of course, write about your topic in 10 pages, but give us a clear idea what it is that you're working on. Give us a clear idea what problems you are facing, so where the PhD workshop and we as facilitators and other participants can help you with. Show that you have a basic command of the literature, of the field and the topic you're trying to work in. It helps, of course, always that you demonstrate that you have an idea of the underlying problem that you're working on. It's always also good to show that you have given some thought to the methodology that you want to use. But also, you have to see that part of this workshop is finding your own way. And for me, it was very much this kind of experience that I was writing about trust, and trust is a huge topic. And to me, I was kind of lost when I came to the PhD workshop. And the workshop really showed me like one way, one avenue that I could take out of many. So this kind of helped me. So the message being, your application doesn't be in the sense that like, oh, I have figured out everything already and it's perfect. If it were perfect, you probably wouldn't need to participate in the workshop in the first place. So just give us something to work with and show that you have a passion and that you have a real, genuine interest in the field, and that you are an interesting member for a conversation who is not just aspiring to get feedback, but who is, of course, equally eager to give feedback to his or her peers. And with that, Ester, I guess it would be a good time for you to jump in. And I guess every other question that our viewers and listeners have are best to be answered in the Q&A session at the end. So Ester, how about your experience?
Yeah. So I've been writing down some points about my experiences. So as Jens said, I joined twice. The first time was in 21 in Pamplona. And the last time was then, or the second time, and probably last time is then last year in Praha. And what I first of all liked very much is that the setting is not at a conference, but both locations were more on the countryside, or like in Prague, it was more on the hills, in the woods, where in Pamplona it was an old farm, and in Praha, we were like one drive away from Praha, it was an old skiing hotel. So it kind of disconnects you a little bit from your daily life. And you're really there with this small group of people, with maximum 12, 13 people. And it also means that you can actually focus more on the discussions, on getting to know the people, and so on. So I think that is a strong advantage of being there. And also last year we were experienced a lot of local food made by the locals there, which was an exciting experience. It's also quite informal setting, since you're such a small group, and it also makes that you get to know each other very quickly, a little bit at least. And Erwin, Jens, and then it was Sarah, but now I guess Nora, really make it easy for you to get to know the people, and that you are in kind of a safe environment where you can express your thoughts, your ideas, your fears, and so on, which I also think is important that you write about. As Jens actually said, it's you get written and oral feedback on the document that you have sent from peers, but also from, and this is really a luxury, from 2-3 very experienced scholars, professors, or at least advanced scholars. And from peers from the other 10 people who are there. And some people just started the PhD, and some are a little bit more advanced, but as Jens said, nobody is at the end of the PhD track. So you have actually the possibility to have a dialogue with all these people who have various ideas about what is the right method, or what is my preferable method. Like, I'm more of a qualitative oriented a researcher. And like last time in Praha, there were a lot of, especially people from Germany, who worked quantitative with their literature reviews, which was always a little bit scary for me. But then while we were discussing it and they explained me during the breaks how they were doing this, I noticed like, okay, I can do this as well. So now I'm actually working on a quantitative literature review, which I would not have thought I would do like 2 years ago. But you don't only talk about your work, you also talk about PhD life. What are the ups and downs? Because for a lot of us, it's a real roller coaster, and we start all with a lot of energy, and it's a dream come true. And sometimes it's like almost a little bit of a nightmare, but then you notice that everybody is going through this phase, and that helps a lot. And also the professors help you to realize that it's just a PhD, if I can say so. And you also talk about, okay, but what do you want after the PhD? Are you want to pursue an academic career, or are you gonna go back to the private sector, or so on? So what ideas do you have for your life after the PhD? Because you only have 3, 4, perhaps 5 years, so time passes by quickly. What I also liked a lot was that the workshop is right before the EUPRERA conference. Like in Pamplona, it was my first time. I didn't know anyone, actually. I knew my supervisors would be there, but they're busy professors as well. So I was a little bit scared, like, okay, I know nobody there. I've never been to this kind of conferences because I come from the advertising sector before. So you actually meet people, and then you have your group of friends and you stick a little bit together through the conference, which was very comfortable for me. And you also go and listen to their presentations. I really like that because you already start your networking there, and I meet also these people on EUPRERA conferences, but also other conferences. And with other people, I will probably start working on research projects once I'm finished with my PhD. And you also meet these people at other PhD courses, or like, hey, you should go to this course, it was a good course, or you send articles to each other afterwards as well. My first time I sent my PhD proposal because I had so many ideas and I put them all in this proposal, and I got very good feedback on that, how I could narrow down my PhD project, because that was really necessary. And I remember especially you, Jens, told me to narrow it down. So, but you came with very good feedback. And then last year I sent in a book chapter I was working on, and to be a little bit honest, then Jens was very critical at that time. So I had a little bit of a crisis, like, oh no, this is the most important article I think that I'm gonna write. Am I on the right track? But it made me reflect, and we have been discussing it during the breaks and afterwards, and I had the possibility to discuss it with Erwin as well. And then I've been rethinking a little bit, okay, what can be the new exciting angle? I also discussed it with my supervisor. So I have been making the changes so that it's not just a reproduction or a continuation of something, but something that could be potentially be new, because now I'm setting the bar high for myself, and that's not the idea here. I think what else did I wrote? About the box format, since you mentioned it, I also wrote something. I wanted to mention that as well. At first I was a bit skeptical because I like to interact with people and I want to know what they think, look at their faces and so on. But once you're sitting there, it's actually a huge advantage. One, you're more focused to what has been said, and you're not listening to how the people express themselves. You're listening to the content. So that is very much a good thing. And also you take it less personal, because you recognize the voices, but as said, you listen to the content and not to the not to the person or so on. So it helps you to focus. It's a lot of preparation, and you have to read 10 papers. You have to come with feedback. There are 2 papers where you have to go deep in the material. So it's normal. I also had to Google and look at Google Scholar. Okay, I don't know so much about this, but I expect people to help me. So I also have to deliver something qualitative that the other people or the opponents, if I can use it, or my peers is a better name, can use to further develop their work. And I think I've gone through everything now, or unless you have a question for me, Jens, something I didn't touch into.
Well, of course, I would be interested why you decided to participate twice.
Good question, because I wanted to meet you again. No.
No, we were actually very happy to have you because, as you remember, we actively wanted you to tell the other folks a little bit about your experience and what you have learned.
No,
and,
I thought the first time. Yeah, sorry.
No, please.
No, the first time it was, I was brand new in this field. I didn't know anything actually, almost, since I take this PhD in the middle of my career and not at the beginning of my career, and also at the beginning of my academic career. So I thought it was good to meet other scholars who were, and what I really like with the group, it's not only like people, younger people or older people, it's always a good mix. So you also can talk about life experiences. Like for me, I have a family. How do I combine it with a husband who works and travels a lot, and with a child, and with teaching, and so on and so on. And but I also learn from the younger scholars to be a little bit more courageous, because you're a little bit more, perhaps you overthink things perhaps a little bit too much when you're a little bit older, as I am. And the second time, since this article is like the first article for my PhD, or the book, it's a book chapter then, that actually will set the scene for the rest of the story I want to tell through my PhD. For me, it was important to get perhaps some outside feedback on that, and I received that. And as said as well, it's also good for networking. So it's I would, especially for networking, what I experienced, and what was a big surprise for me before going into academics and before becoming a PhD student and becoming a researcher, is that networking is so important, and this really is a soft entrance into the networking space. So even if you are perhaps we talked about being introvert and extrovert, I seem to remember in Praha, like if you are more of an introvert person, this is really a soft entrance into the networking scholar community, actually. So, and a very safe start. Yes.
Yeah, I just, before we get to the questions, want to emphasize the safe environment that you said, because I think that's really vital, that when you come to the EUPRERA PhD workshop, what is said there, that will stay there. Because as you've said, we don't just want to give you advice on the content of your PhD thesis. We also want to give you a little bit of advice on how to go through with that process. And lots of it is kind of an emancipation process, it's like growing up academically, so to speak. And I mean, you have a daughter, I have 2 kids, and we know that from our role as parents. But it's basically somewhat similar also academically speaking. And it's always good to have like the situation where, there's people who are going through exactly the same thing that I'm going through right now. And that really gives you strength, that you're writing your PhD alone and you're doing it for yourself. But there's other people who can teach you a thing or two about that. I think the second thing I would also want to re-emphasize and highlight that you said is like the diversity, right? What you said, you are a qualitative scholar, others were a quantitative scholar. And this kind of diversity of methodologies, but also of theories, is very important. It's not that you don't need to have some certain beliefs about PR or strategic communication theories and what methodology is best. We have Oyvind and me have famous battles. What kind of methodology is best suited to tackle a problem? But that makes it interesting also to have different kind of views and to have an argument about what's the best approach to solve your problem, to answer your research questions. And that's enriching because, I mean, at the end of the day, nobody is saying you should do it that way. We're just making suggestions and giving you things to think about. And I think it's very important that you can think and talk in such a small community, which is really the kernel, hopefully, of a future network that is growing, and you becoming a part of EUPRERA. And Esther, I think we succeeded quite well with you there. And also the last thing I want to highlight before we then really go to questions is I found it great, and I find it great that everybody is participating. And it's not just us as the professors giving feedback, but it's the participants, the students, who go ahead with the feedback and who really provide feedback in the long run. And only at the end, it's Oyvind, Nora, and me who are then giving their view on what we think should be said there. So it's really, we like to think of it as a relatively equal setting, that it's not about our expertise in the first place, but it's really a peer feedback session. And only to realize that science and research in general is not so much, oh, those are the great minds of our field and they are doing all this crazy and wonderful things. It's really a team effort. Creation of knowledge is a team effort, and everybody is an important member of this endeavor, and everybody can have or can provide very useful insights for the research of our colleagues in all around Europe and all around the world. So, and with that being said, let's see. I haven't noticed any question just yet, which means, Esther, we are free to talk about keep talking whatever we want. What is when you think back about writing your proposals? You said the first time you participated, in the sense that you provided us with your proposal for the PhD. What did you do differently the second time? I mean, you said you handed in your chapter, right? So what was your approach the second time? So let's put it that way. What could you tell your first time participant, Esther, that you wish you had known back then before you were applying to Pamplona? I know, difficult question.
I think we have something that is called prestationsangst in Norwegian. Fear for
stage fever.
Something like that. That okay, I'm sending in something which of course it was approved, so I started the PhD, so I know it was not garbage, of course, but I was really afraid that I would be like the less developed academic in the group when I was sending in my proposal, because it's like it's your baby. You have been thinking about it, you have been writing about it, but still you don't know. You feel that you're not at your destination yet, and you're not before you actually finish your PhD, and even then probably for the rest of your academic career you never reach that end goal, I guess, whatever it is, but to be perhaps a little bit less afraid. And also I was very careful at the beginning with my feedback to the other peers, because I wasn't sure about the level of the other scholars. And I didn't want to disencourage them or to be unpolite. So what I noticed the difference with Praha, there we had some more direct scholars, to say so. So you got a little bit more very clear feedback, not in an unpleasant manner, but I thought perhaps I could be more concrete sometimes. So yes, and I also used a lot more time the first time to read all the papers than the second time. But that's also because you know more theories and you know more about methods and so on, of course. So yes, but it's good to learn. You read 10 papers, you get feedback from 13 people. I mean, it's a luxury situation. And whenever does that happen, without that, it's no pass or fail. It's like, how can we improve you? So that's a really nice approach. Yeah.
I think it's very important also to emphasize, when you are writing such a 10-pager and you're applying for the program, it's not about passing a test or that you can fail. When we try to select 10 participants, we're of course trying to have like a balance in the sense that we want to have participants from different countries, that we want to have a diverse set of theories and methodologies, and of course we're trying to give a premium on those we think we can help best, but which means that when somebody is really nearing the end of the PhD, we are like, I think there is somebody who needs our help a little bit more, in the sense that somebody's at the early stages like you were in 2021, but still, like last year, it was still very good for you to participate, because there was still enough value that we could give in terms of the feedback that we provided, and you were still far enough away from the finish line so that the intake of the feedback somehow made
just
sense.
Give some context.
To provide feedback.
I'm on the. Oh, is the screen? Yeah. Just to give some context, I do. I'm now in the middle of my PhD, since I do a little bit longer than 3 years, so I'm still in the 2/3 part, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm still looking at the comment section. I don't see any questions just yet. I thought it was fitting that the screen was freezing, since you are from Norway. So, is there anything else? Well,
I would just say, send your proposal. It can be an article, can be your PhD proposal, can be a long abstract or 2 abstracts. So it's worth it.
Yeah. So just to make clear, we are asking of you the 10-pager once you are accepted to the workshop. Before that, we have a shorter proposal of 2 pages, but you can look it up on the EUPRERA website on the section for the PhD workshop. There's also the deadline listed for this year, when you have to submit your proposal or application, so to speak. And the 3 of us, Nora, Oyvind, and me, will then sit together and will decide, based on the criteria I mentioned earlier, which of you are going to be part of it. It's important to us to really have a rather small setting with 10 people to participate, to really create this kind of atmosphere and community where it's really not just about giving feedback for 1 hour and then we're switching to the next person, but really create an environment where you can learn through conversations that is built upon trust, and where you really have some value. And perhaps I should also mention that we then have a PhD panel at the EUPRERA conference. So you won't just be discussing your own PhD project within the workshop. You'll also present it very shortly at the conference in what Oyvind calls from management speak elevator pitch, which we are practicing. And it's really always, for me, participating in there, great to see how much clarity people develop about their own project within just a couple of days, and how much more understanding you have of your own work when you start reflecting, talking about it with others, peers, and but also when you are giving feedback to somebody else, when you're learning that knowing something is different from really expressing it and being able to tell others what your research is about. Okay, we can now sit a little bit in silence and wait if there are more questions or comments coming our way. If that's not the case, then Esa, I'm very sorry, but you won't get invited for a third time here. Oh, you will. You will be.
You told me last time, so
You will be, but of course, then maybe someday as a co-facilitator for the workshop.
Happy
that would
to
be
do
great.
that. Mm.
And yeah.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for today.